$7 million Super Bowl ads, crypto leaving the space. What is going on in the sports sponsorship world? Hello, everyone. I'm Jabari Young, senior writer here at Forbes. And in a minute, I'll be talking to Jessi Sanchez, the valuation expert at Playfly Sports, the marketing firm. And we're going to talk about the 2023 sponsorship space when it comes to sports. What is going on with crypto leaving the space? Jersey patches flooding the market. What's happening in sports sponsorship? Talking to Jessi Sanchez right now. $7 million. That's how much a 30-second ad. That's how much Fox is reportedly paying for us, charging for a 30-second ad. What am I getting for $7 million?
I would say people to talk about the fact that you bought an ad. Have you ever bought? No one talks about ads. I think the fact that people are actually looking forward to it and actually talk about it at the water cooler the next day.
Yeah.
You've seen reports. Relevance and at least some eyeballs attention can't be bought nowadays. So I do think there's a tremendous amount, and the smart brands that tease it out, that do something after, it's definitely worth the investment, but not for every brand.
Yeah. So you actually like companies spending $7 million 30 seconds for the NFL Super Bowl. And I know it's the NFL, they're going to get their viewers and they're get their millions. My question is, and I'm talking about this to my colleagues, like, does it work anymore, right? Does the advertising around the Super Bowl, does it work anymore? Because they've become so creative that it's almost like people forget about the actual brand and the messaging. Does it work? From what y'all metrics say, does it still work?
We track it. I think depends on the brands. The brands that approach it very much like a commercial, not so much. I think people even say like it wasn't worth it. If it tease out their campaign. Let me ask you, do you remember that Taco Bell where the guy's on like a little electric wheelchair, and he's like racing?
Yeah.
And it's like Liv Moss, that was the first time. The fact that you remembered it is why it's worth what it is. Can you do it and then kind of lead into the content programming, the creativity, the messaging, because there is so much work done to it. It can be very successful, but as you're saying, it could be a huge miss and you just burn money.
Yeah.
But some people's careers are like that's their Super Bowl. That's
Absolutely.
Their moment to shine.
Yeah. Well, I remember it because I got a good memory, Jessi. Right? That's why I remember it. But a lot of people may not. But so I mean, listen, there's countless commercials, and I don't want to just make this about the Super Bowl, but there's countless commercials. I just use the Super Bowl because it's the most expensive one, right? When we think about yearly, do you ever see the price going down? And we talk Super Bowl because it's only a few weeks away. Do you ever see the price saying, okay, stop here, it's going to start to go down?
Great question. I think eventually, I don't see it yet.
Yeah.
You saw the NFL or all the media rights negotiations keep skyrocketing. But there's also a tremendous behind the scenes on additional programming, additional value adds that they sell outside of just the game itself.
Yeah.
And so for those big broadcasters, I can see them continuing to leverage it because they do see brands still interested in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we started off with the Super Bowl again, but talking the state of sports and sports sponsorships in 2023. But before we get too much into that, tell me about your role at Playfly, what you do, and how the company, how you guys help clients.
Absolutely. I have one of the more fun jobs. I put values on all the types of partnerships. So primarily sponsorships, but from a valuation perspective and a consulting perspective, we look to kind of maximize commercial revenue. That's my goal. That's my job. So if you think about new stadium builds, it's, great. I have a idea of where it will be, but how about the surrounding areas? Do I put an esports venue, a music arena? Where do I put the signs? How do I make this an experience? And so what we do from like a kind of a Playfly perspective is understand what actually can generate the most revenue, add to the fan experience, and kind of is what brands want. Yeah. You mentioned the Super Bowl. There's just so much clutter. So from our side, it can be valuation for a naming rights deal, valuation for a jersey patch, and it can be commercial strategy revenue, anything that can kind of help a brand or a team understand what the fair market value is, because we don't want we're the ones that remove that finger in the air pricing. Like, no, we're grounded in metrics. We track anything you can possibly imagine, TV ratings, social engagements, like actual success, to then pinpoint what the brand should be paying for that level of exposure, that tie to the IP marks, all the things that make up sports marketing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love Playfly. I always rely on you guys. When I'm thinking what values could be worth, I'm always hitting you guys up. But when you think about the market and how it's changed now, right? Is Playfly doing anything differently that you don't see the other, major marketing companies do? You have the Wassermans of the world, the Excels of the world. What's Playfly doing differently?
We look to kind of create those meaningful partnerships, never kind of force, extra things behind it. So from a Playfly side, we have so many different entities. One is like the media sales. So the beauty is, the RSNs, NBA, NHL, MLB. It's, what are you looking for, advertiser? What region are you looking to buy? How many games? Let's build that right package for you, and keep it at no fluff. Like, we're not adding in magazines. We're not adding in other things. So we really approach in the marketplace, here's what we can do for you in an authentic way. From a sponsorship side, same concept. Yeah. We are not just rolling out a cookie cutter package, really looking to customize. And because of the scale and leverage Playfly has, it is not just pro sports, it's college, it's high school, it's esports. We are investing in where the people are watching. Yeah. So that's where we're excited. Constantly asking ourselves, what's that next generation of fan? It's so complex now. Back in the day, it was, all right, we have these 5 sports, let's just figure it out. Now there's YouTube. Like, I'm talking to my little cousins, TikTok. I do not download it. I'm kind of scared of it. But it's really kind of, how do you really bring out a meaningful partnership in this day and age that attention is so hard to get. Yeah. The attention span, believe it or not, continues to go shorter and shorter. And so from a brand marketing perspective, they need to get in people's minds, and in purpose, value, community. That's what's taking center stage. And that's what I love about Playfly, is that we are have the scale, but do so in an authentic, purposeful way.
And you guys take, national brands and you localize them. You allow those national brands to have some exposure, some advertising around local teams, around local markets, especially MLB, right, amongst your big clients?
Absolutely. What we track, and I'm part of the insights team, and the insights team is, where is that fandom really lie? And so if you're buying baseball on a national broadcast, you're getting all those markets for one game that might be just important in those 2 markets that the teams are playing in, versus we actually are selling that actual fan base. All right. So that's where the passion lies. That's where, exactly as you're saying, we try to bring out that value, and also the marketing position.
Yeah. Hey, did you know you always wanted to do this, like get into valuation? Like, what's your background? Grew up in Chicago, went to DePaul, and you knew right away you wanted to do sports marketing.
It was, fell in my lap, to be honest. My dad, he was probably the best, cleanest cab in Chicago. And his best client was the CEO of a sponsorship valuation agency. And that's how I got into even having a chance at, I had no idea this was even a business. So from there, her name is Lisa Yuchman. She made me auto her class in Northwestern, took me to conferences, and kind of groomed me to be sponsorship valuation research person. So I got a finance degree, marketing, and I think now, as I learned statistics on my own, but I've always loved numbers, but also how things work. Yeah, and that's where we're not one thing or the other. The person that can actually communicate the why, the purpose of the valuation, put some life into the numbers, is what's successful today. And I've had a lot of fun doing so. But every single day there's a different market, industry considerations, and that's why I love what I do. It's every single day something new puzzle piece. If it's crypto, if it's healthcare, if it's new regulations, laws, betting, it's a brand new industry I need to figure out. And I always love that challenge.
What age did it hit you though? Like what? Because listen, I love numbers too. I love looking at numbers when I'm winning on Madden, when I'm beating in the Xbox. I love looking at numbers when my bank account, right? When Forbes pays me, I love looking at that number. But I didn't want to get too much into numbers because I hated math. But at the same time, here you are. What age did you know valuation, sports marketing, the ability to work with numbers daily was going to be the way to go?
I also love seeing those numbers in my bank account for sure.
Yeah.
But,
Can I borrow some of them?
So, I was going to ask you the same thing. The one that I really loved, I think that kind of cemented me in wanting to kind of keep going in this industry was we were working with the 49ers and the Levi's Stadium deal closed. And I couldn't stop telling my friends, you see that, Levi's? That was me.
Wow.
I did the numbers behind the scenes. And so it's just, that's when it's stuck. I'm that annoying friend that if you're watching a sporting event, I'll be like, hey, did you see that sign back there? Yeah. Or even a movie. Oh, that's branded placement. You know how much that costs? So my friends have kind of gotten used to me now, just like rolling their eyes and saying, it's okay, Jess. Yeah. We know you work in sports and entertainment.
Yeah.
So,
so no fireman, no scientist, not an NBA player, not an NFL player. You wanted to do valuations because when you're born, not people they don't come out saying I want to be a rapper. That's what you see a lot of kids want to be nowadays, right? They don't say I want to do brand placement and valuations for a living.
Yeah, I think it was around that 20-ish age. So
yeah,
it wasn't too young.
Yeah.
But the when you see how like business works behind the scenes, it's you get attracted to it. You kind of want to be in the inside of how these deals work. And a lot of the things we do are not happening for another 4 or 5 years. So like if it's a new stadium that hasn't even broken ground, we're over here strategizing, planning. A funny memory was I saw a bridge on the CAD drawing. I'm like, where does that lead to? And the guy's like, oh yeah, let me just remove it. And he just deleted a bridge on the planning. I was like, that's nuts that you're contributing to what could be kind of a future. It is a future place that everyone loves to go to.
That's why I love talking to you, man. You're the money man, right? You could tell me how much things are worth. Listen, again, state of the sports sponsorship scene in 2023. Before we move ahead, 2022, right? What was the biggest surprise in the sector for you?
The quick demise or craziness of crypto. I think that's everyone was a little skeptical, but the numbers kept going, and then like the FTX. I can't wait for that Hulu or Netflix, behind the scenes.
Or Forbes.
Or Forbes, exactly. And then I do think this is gearing up towards a little bit of a crazy time in relation to everyone's trying to get brand placements on the coveted screen. You're seeing the patches, you're seeing on screen graphics. And I think people aren't really taking into account the clutter, the frustration of the fan.
Yeah.
As all of us, we're looking to watch the game itself. We're not interested in kind of being bombarded. And so a lot of the studies we're doing is fans aren't against it because they know it's part of it, but they want to do so in a way
organic,
that's authentic and value added.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Now that was the negative surprise of 2022. What about the positive surprise?
Positive surprise, I'd say I'm usually more of the skeptic.
So am I.
The positive side, I'd say, deals. MLS, for instance, you just announced some very big deals. I was part of some of them. So deals are happening. I think sometimes you get a little worried on a recession looming, but as long as you have the right offering, that authentic position, and that fan base, like I still love the fact that every single time there's always a storyline that kind of grabs you. And that's what sports is about. That's what marketing is about, is like, how do you really, tap into that passion? So I think just seeing that these big deals are still happening and they keep growing in value, going back to your point, sometimes people are like, there's probably a top. And it's like, no, because there's always, growing marketing costs. Also, we're providing better engagement.
Yeah.
Everyone's fans are their biggest asset, and they need to make sure they protect them. And the ones that are smart are doing so in a compelling less brand but higher price perspective.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned recession, right? Because obviously there's always this nervousness around recession. I don't know what to believe about a recession. When I go into the stores, the lines are still long, right? Things are still sold out. So I say, well, people are still spending money. But then when I'm driving on the highways and I'm in Texas and in Pennsylvania, I see empty billboards, right? And it kind of makes me nervous because, like, when you see empty billboards, that means advertisers are pulling back. But still, recession time, people I've spoken to in the industry, they think things are going to be a little status quo in sports sponsorship space. You seeing it differently?
I see a little different. I think every sport is going through a pretty big change.
Yeah.
MLS is going Apple TV. No one knows what's going to happen. I think we can try to predict, but it is an interesting. There's so many pros and there's also some concerns. I'd say from what I've loved in the last couple of weeks is, there's so much more activity, so much more willingness to invest. Because the last December, I'm not sure if everyone went to vacation early or what happened, but it was a ghost town from deal making.
Yeah.
People weren't even taking meetings. Now I'm seeing more and more people, willing to invest in the future. Hopefully people are seeing nothing is a short-term win. There's no magic bullet. It really involves kind of a multitude of factors and a long-term plan, long-term view of things. So I'm still seeing growth, but the ones that aren't doing it correctly, they're the ones that are going to suffer.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a mix.
Yeah.
If you're overloading brands, if you're not really caring about your value prop, you're gonna hurt. And I think brands are getting a lot smarter in who they're investing in and why.
So it doesn't sound like you're worried about a recession at all when it comes down to sports sponsorships or sports in general. They'll be fine.
I think I wish I had the magic 8-ball to kind of predict, but like you're saying, I've seen a lot of factors. I think there might be like a steady increase, so not like a traditional increase, but definitely from marketing, even during the time of recessions, the smart brands that can still maintain in front of the consumers are going to win in the long run. There's so many studies that show that people who actually pulled back advertising suffered 10 times more to recover than their competitors.
Yeah, you lose market share. Yeah. I mean, and people say that all the time. You lose market share if you cut advertising too much. And I believe, and you let me know if I'm wrong, the one area that you have to be sensitive about is sports because it does drive so much viewership, and it is still the foundation that's upholding traditional networks.
Yeah, I think that's why sports are what they are, and you're even seeing a little bit in the entertainment space. They're not getting the same viewers and the same kind of metrics, but sports, even with cord cutting, is the one that is the safest.
Yeah,
is the one that's maintaining, and that's what that has that passion. It's just making sure that the right solutions are made for it, and you're not just spending to spend. You're creating that solution for your marketing pain, because every brand has a different objective they're looking to accomplish, and not every asset can accomplish the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, they'll get through recession. Sports always survives. That much history says that it will. But today, in 2023, what are companies and even what are clients, brands and teams, what goes into a fair, good valuation to make sure that everybody's getting something fair out of a deal? What's in the valuation, ecosystem now?
So that's one of the things we love doing here at Playfly is kind of I haven't coined it yet, so I might get yelled at. The Playfly promise.
Yeah.
It's more KPI driven, right? ROI driven or ROO driven from an objective perspective. You always see it from both sides. They're looking to get either the most economical deal with the fewest assets, so they can kind of get a deal. The salesperson might be trying to jam anything down to get the highest number, and it's really finding that take the time. What are your objectives? Great. What is a measurable? What's a win look like? What is that? So you're looking for how many entries into your sweepstakes, how many new customers, and finding a way to measure that. Have a projection before the year it happens. What went well? What went wrong? And keep adjusting. Because what I love about sports is there's so many passionate people working at all these organizations that want to make that partner successful. So as long as you have a plan, what does ROI look like? What does success look like, and putting those measurable objectives against it. I think that's how you're going to win in the new age.
Yeah.
It's finding that mix of art and science, because not everything is measurable, but as long as you're putting it on there, here's what winning it looks like. And if for whatever reason that property does not deliver, then it's an easy conversation. Hey, I'm not going to sponsor you anymore because I'm just not getting the return I expect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, there are some assets that are available, and you kind of mentioned some of them, to start the conversation. One of them is the jersey patch, right? And MLB is coming online. They're full fleet. NHL, the NBA is already there. NBA jersey patch, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. You might like it. I do not like the NBA jersey patch. I think it's a waste of money. I think they can get advertising and get way better investment or way better return on investment, because the NBA jersey patch is not big enough, and I'm not watching a game to see the patch. I'm watching it to see the play. However, I do love the virtual floor ads, the VR floor ads. I'm hearing about $15,000 per quarter from what I'm told. I do love that. What is your take on the jersey patch? And you said that they were getting crowded. Do you think it's a good deal for a sponsor?
Great question. Is always depends.
Yeah.
There's some brands that make sense. You're trying to enter into the market. You're trying to show that you care. So there's also a whole, if you want to use the good old glacier, you see the top, right? You see the patch, and you're like, oh, why are you doing this? And then there's a whole mountain or a whole amount of work or assets behind the scenes that are really gonna make or break that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are a patch or a naming rights sponsor, you are, you're part of the high roller table. I'm gonna take care of you. Whatever you need, let's talk. And that kind of servicing, that kind of feel is what makes these deals successful. It's, how are you going to entertain your clients? You need to understand their business and what, again, going back to my point earlier about ROI and making that happen. So what you may not see behind the scenes is there might be a couple of seats on that jet, on that charter plane with the team, and that right there can help kind of close some big deals.
Yeah. So now I see why the Motorola's of the world or Wii Bulls playing all that, because they get the perks of it. I get that part. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but from baseball, because of the game of play, the style of play, I think that has the highest return from a media value, just purely media. Like you said, there's everything else that can really make or break that deal. The clients we're working with, they see that as a component, but not the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, how can they actually make a difference in the community? Depending on, is it sustainability? What does that mean? How can we bring it to life? And it's really about leveraging that sponsor's uniqueness, or that what they can do better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're seeing that brand actually invest into the team and say, we're going to get you our best products. We're going to make sure this is something meaningful. And then you can kind of track the community. Because the first question they're going to ask is, why did you partner with such and such? What's in it for me? That's every single fan, every single time. What do I get out of this deal? And if you can really do a meaningful platform or change the community, I think you're going to have a much more success, because deals are happening left and right. You may not hear about them. Same thing with the Super Bowl commercial in the very beginning. If you're getting front of mind, if you're getting a chance to talk about it, that is successful in this day of crazy clutter, crazy attention spans.
Yeah, there's a lot of clutter. I do, however, love MLB's jersey patch, because, as you kind of mentioned, the time on the television, that screen time, the amount of games you get, it's slower pace of action, and your eyes just kind of, you can see more, whereas basketball is just action nonstop. So I do love MLB, and I think Nielsen said that the average team can make about $11 million per year, or $11 million per season for those particular assets. Is that a number you feel like is fair, overboard, under?
There's I would say there are probably 4 different tiers of teams.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the bigger ones are going to get multiples of that. And then the smaller teams, maybe a little less than that.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good value. It's going back to how can you really add to that? Because what baseball needs is that superstardom, which is why I do like the NBA, because it's a star-driven league. And so, if you are a fan of LeBron or anybody else, you see what's on there. I mean, you might not like the brand that's on there, but at least you know it. And that can kind of start teasing out the activations and promotion that go along with it.
Yeah, but I see it like I see a fire truck. Like I see a fire truck, but I'm not paying attention to it. I'm just making sure I don't hit the damn thing, but I'm not paying attention to the fire truck. I'm making sure, but I want to make sure I see the brand, right? I want to participate in it, and that's why I said, like I said, I love the NBA, right? The NBA it's a great sport, and they're on the rise. I think they'll pass the NFL in valuations one day, but at the same time, I just don't like the patch. However, if I'm the NFL, I would get the patch only because I know it's so much profit. They don't want to do it. Before this decade is up, 2030, do you see the NFL adding a jersey patch?
I've made significant bets, wagers in this, and I've said no.
Yeah. They're throwing away money, though, right? That's money wasted.
Again, I think there's the networks drive so much of that negotiation.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun to see like the differences in each league. Do I see it? Again, you're saying cash, but same with fans are like, what am I just seeing something here, or is there something else with it?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Again, it's crazy prediction in my world to say no, because you can come back and I can air this and I'll be
No, we'll just have another conversation talking about it again. That's all. Hey, before I let you go, man, there are some other assets that are on the market. I know the Spurs have a naming right assets. The AT&T Center, they were re-up for 1 year. The team announced, and then that's going to go back to market. The Bucks, to my knowledge, still hasn't closed on their plaza naming rights yet. So I'm wondering, right, what's going on in the naming rights space for the small market teams? Obviously, the big market teams are going to get theirs, but small market teams, I'm seeing that maybe not a lot of deals are getting done from the naming rights space. You expect that to pick up in 2023?
Yeah, I think it's always kind of teeing up to the start of the league. So like MLS just signed a couple of naming rights, I think, and a couple for the kids. So the market's still there for the right brand. I think when you start getting into these secondary assets like the Bucks Plaza, it's really asking yourself what's included, and if you're not getting the buzz that you expect, then it's not going to work. But from a naming rights perspective, across all these sports, like the NBA in particular, it's gonna sell. Like the TV, the interest, the star power, it's there. And brands, every single time can make that their home. It's such a compelling offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before I let you go, if you had to pick one word, right, and we're in January 2023, I'll give you the right to reserve your answer or change your answer around June. But right now, as we sit in January 2023, if you had to pick one word to describe the sports sponsorship space this year, which word would that be?
Oof, great question. I'd say go a different route here. I'm going to go happy.
Happy?
Happy.
Why happy?
The reason why I use happy is that's what sports is all about. Like, it's that joy. It's like what you can bring to it. So if the ones that are doing good deals, they're going to end up happy. And if you're trying to force deals, you're not going to end up. So that's where I think the smart ones will prevail. I keep seeing more and more smart people, different divisions, like people are hiring business intelligence units. They're hiring more kind of justification, really focusing on content. I think we're catching up to what brands have been trying to do from a sports perspective. So I think people will be happy.
Yeah, well, they'll be happy if the number's right? That number got to be looking good for them to be happy.
They got to hire me if they want the right number.
Absolutely. So. Playfly Sports, Jessi Sanchez, thank you so much for the time, my brother. Always love picking your brain when it comes to valuations and sports sponsorships. Some very interesting stuff on the sports business scene. So I guess I'll hit you in a couple of months and see how the scene's going.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jabari. Anything you need, I'm here for you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.